Oh my god, I just had this amazing idea. Oh man, I can't wait to do it tomorrow. Let's hope I do not forget what it is about. You know what it's like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have this amazing idea that you're gonna say, oh, don't worry about it, I'm just gonna remember it tomorrow and I'm gonna do it. And then you wake up in the morning and you completely forgot about it. You remember that you thought about this cool idea, but you just can't put your finger on what it was. And it's lost forever in this river of your mind. I learned to adapt to when this thing happens by getting this app called Color Notes and always keeping notes of everything that comes to my thoughts. And this is how I organize my mind and my thoughts so I can do it later. And throughout the years and months, I've been noting all sorts of game design tips, tricks, and all that sorts of stuff. So today I'm gonna share with you 7 tips and tricks about game design that you can apply to your game. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm an indie game developer from Romania, currently working on a turn-based RPG called Tale and Ale, and it's gonna be released on Android sometime in the future. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 1. If your game needs more replayability, you can just add a hardcore mode or New Game Plus. There are many games, especially AAA games, which do this. The games that come to mind are Dark Souls, Borderlands, and so on and so forth. It's a hack to make your game replayable, and it works, that's the fun thing. People like starting up a new game with all the power they already have. New Game Plus, if you're not familiar, is when you start a game from the start of the story and the zones and all that sort of stuff. But what you do is you keep all of your gear, all of your items, levels, and all the enemies are scaled up. So it's harder, but you already have what you ended your last playthrough with. So that makes it more interesting because it opens up more possibilities. It changes the difficulty, the way the zones are played. And number 2, while we're talking about zones and enemy scaling, my number 2 tip is that enemies should increase in power linearly as the player increases in power spikes. What that means is that enemies with each level the player gains, for example, enemies will just get that much stronger, like a little bit stronger. While the player, yes, every level of the player also gets a little bit stronger, but what I mean by power spikes is when the player gets that certain super strong ability or a super strong item upgrade. Maybe the player gets a new sword or a new weapon of some sorts, which increases the power of the player. And with enemies leveling up linearly, as soon as the player gets that weapon, the player is gonna see the effectiveness of that weapon. And one game design mistake that I often see, when the player gets an upgrade as a power spike, the enemies also increase in power, and that kind of sucks because you're not gonna be able as a player to experience the power of that new weapon because it's just gonna feel the same. When the player acquires a new power, a new powerful item, keep the enemies mostly the same and just keep leveling the enemies as the time goes on linearly. My 3rd tip. This one is very simple and it's been said quite a lot in GDC and by all these game designers. Stamina bars out of combat are stupid, especially in 2020 when the players like to go fast, players like to run a lot. Yeah, in some games it's absolutely necessary, like in Dark Souls, it's part of the game, but take games like Diablo 2 for example, where you do have a stamina bar, but it limits how much you can move out of combat and it makes traveling slower. While we're at it, this is an added 3.5 tip. If the player travels a lot in an area, you just add some speed boosts if there are no enemies and all the player does around that areas is travel. Just add this minor little faster traveling boosts, speed boosts, maybe some sort of very short distance teleporters. The way just player is just gonna go faster. My tip number 4, and let's backtrack a little bit and go to another type of game. This is gonna apply mostly to mobile or level-based games, but if your game levels have this stars scoring, you're gonna see that some games will give each level a score based on how well you performed on the level, from 1 star to 3 stars, sometimes 5, but it's mostly 3 stars. So if you play that level really well, if you didn't die, for example, maybe you got it through the level really fast, you're gonna get 3 stars. And my tip for this is the first few levels of that game should be really easy to make 3 stars. Why? Because when the player starts the game and gets 3 stars, gets perfect performance on the first few levels, the player is gonna be incentivized to also get 3 stars in the upcoming levels. If for the player it's still hard to get 3 stars, for the first levels, the player might just think, oh well, 3 stars is really hard to get. By making 3 stars really easy to get, you're just gonna make the player think that, hey, it's not that hard. It's a mentality thing, really. Tip number 5. If you press a button and the door opens, show that door opening. Yes, this has also been said by a lot of game designers, a lot of videos, but I can't iterate this enough because I don't see it enough in games. I wish I had an example. I just know from my mind that I've seen this happen. So don't neglect. Don't neglect that. Please press buttons, open doors. Show me the goddamn door. My number 6 tip. This is a game hack. Some of you might not like this, but if the player gets stuck on a level or on a certain challenge, what you can do is you can have an achievement congratulating the player being stuck on that level. When you get stuck on a level, that might feel quite frustrating, that you're not making any progress. But if you died 21 times at the same level already and you get an achievement saying congratulations, you died 20 times on this level, you're gonna get incentivized to play a little bit, like, okay, maybe that's kind of a little bit of progress, even though you don't really get rewarded with anything practical. It's an acknowledgement that the developer says, hey, I'm right here with you, I understand your struggles, and just keep going, you're gonna get it eventually. Maybe give them a tip and an achievement, but what I suggest is you do not give them an easier way to do the level. I suggest that just a tip or a you can do it message is enough. Also, make sure you don't overdo it. Don't do this for every level, only do this for those special levels that feel really hard. Otherwise, it's gonna lose its magic. My final tip, my final seventh tip, tip number 7. One of the most annoying things in games is when you start making an upgrade or research and it takes some time and you see that progress bar updating and it goes and it goes and it goes and you don't have much to do but look at it. Look at the progress bar load, just look at it. Look at it, isn't this fun? No, it's not fun. But my solution for this is, instead of having the player press a button and look at the progress bar go, just make the user hold tap on the button and see the progress bar go. That way it makes the player feel like they have the input and like their input matters and their time is not wasted waiting. Also, why not make that progress bar goddamn faster? Just make the player hold tap for 2 to 3 seconds and see the progress bar load and you're done, instead of making them wait. That is my 7th tip. Please do that. I hate waiting for progress bars. Well, that's 7 tips. It's a bit more than 7 tips actually, but if you like them, please consider liking the video, sharing, subscribing and following me on Twitter and on Facebook. I post regularly. Also, I upload to YouTube at the moment every Saturday, so don't miss out. Wait for my game. If my game is out, please play it. It's probably free with ads. I'm so sorry, I have to make money. That being said, my name is Dave W. Have a nice development journey.